People who have visited the US, what is your WTF America story? When I was living in California back in the late 90s-2000, the news came on and announced that one of the stories would be NATO staffs bombing Kosovo. I turned the news up, only to have to sit through the more important story first. Out of season rain in LA. I was talking to a girl years ago about the US. It was around the 4th of July. I'm British, she's American. She wished me a happy the 4th of July. I told her we don't celebrate that in the UK. She didn't understand why. Good riddance day, as we call it when our American friends celebrate it here. An excuse for food, drink and a party, so I'm all for it. Okay, I think people who do this are stupid, but I see the need to join their ranks. Capital T. Just got back from Miami. Told a woman who was walking her cat that my girlfriend and I thought her cat was cute. She then told us she is not a prostitute, and nor was the cat. As an American, that's just a weird response. Also, cat walkers tend to be somewhat strange, says the girl debating on buying a leash for her cat. A friend of mine lived in Virginia for some years for school, and the locals, it was an average sized town, not some hillbilly shithole, asked him if we had cars, electricity, internet or fridges in Luxembourg. Anyone asking? Of course we don't have those things in Luxembourg. That's how we became one of the richest countries on earth. By staying in the Stone Age. Don't let anyone fool you to think we all have glass fiber internet and government paid education and healthcare that includes massages. It's all lies. We all live under a rock. Mine was on the flight home. We just landed, and I overheard the following exchange. Mom, where are we? Amsterdam. It's in Germany. Well, at one point in time she wasn't too wrong. I'm from Sweden, and visited New York a few summers ago with my family. We had just gotten off the bus, and my stepsister was feeling really nauseous from the bus ride. She walks up to a garbage can and takes a few deep breaths, trying to not vomit. Suddenly a guy in a suit with a briefcase walks up, asks if she's alright, tells her to wait there, and comes back a few seconds later with a bottle of water for her. Just a complete stranger. That's not something you'd see in Sweden. I went to the US this summer to work for my uncle's company in LA for 8 weeks. I'm currently studying at university in the UK. I decided to fly up to San Francisco to visit my cousin for the weekend and flew from LAX. After my return flight, I was about to exit the LAX American terminal when all the police around me got their guns out and started shouting about a shooter at the airport. Chaos erupted around me with people everywhere throwing their suitcases to the floor and screaming. I had no idea what to do. I had just bought a tea from Starbucks and I didn't really want to throw it on the floor and run about, so I followed this stampede of people through the terminal. I found a room to hide in with 20 other people. We all lay on the floor being quiet, trying to stay calm. People all around me calling their loved ones, saying their goodbyes. It was insane. I didn't have any service on my AT&T phone, so I just sat there drinking tea, contemplating what I would do if a gunman appeared. I realize now it was the most British thing to do at that moment. We were in there for 25 minutes when we got told it was clear. All of this happened because the police heard a loud noise and there was someone dressed as Zorro, which raised suspicions. WTF America. They have bank drive-thrus. They go to the bank like they go to McDonald's. Saw them in New Jersey around 5 years ago. One summer when we visited some friends out in Tennessee and we're eating fresh deer he'd shot that afternoon off his BBQ, drinking beer and sharing differences in culture, at which point out of nowhere he pulls out a pellet gun and shoots a squirrel from the top of a phone line. He then proceeded to cut, wash, clean and cook the squirrel. Tasted like chicken. I have no doubt that if there was a global apocalypse it might take Tennessee a few years to notice, and only because they stopped making more Bud Light. The food. Holy crap. Me and my sister would occasionally share meals because there was so much of it, and there'd still be loads left behind. As an American I don't understand this. I usually eat all of my food. Whoa. I'm 14, 5 ft 6 inches and weigh 101 pounds. Not overweight by any means, but I couldn't having the McDonald's medium be the large. The flags man. The flags. I used to joke with my mom that if my career doesn't work out I'm just gonna open a flag shop in the US. My dad lives in America, and I visited him for the first time in 10 years last September. First thing he did was take me to the local police gun range, where I was taught how to fire a fully automatic assault rifle, a semi-automatic rifle, and a variety of pistols. They didn't even know my name and they put a gun in my hands and told me to shoot at a target. Best freaking day ever. That's the American dream right there. Visited Miami a few years ago with a friend. We started a brief conversation with the hotel porter and told him we were from London. He goes, "Hey, I know some British slang." Throughout our stay, whenever he saw us we were greeted with "Hey, what's up wankers" and "Good morning you miserable sea." Was hilarious. Back in the 90s I was in San Francisco. In Australia I had never seen a beggar, but there were heaps of them in San Francisco. Anyway, I was walking around, and this beggar comes up to me shaking his can full of coins in my face. He never said a word, just shook his can in my face. So I said to him, "No thanks mate, I've got enough coins of my own." He gave me a look of WTF. That is my WTF America story. I'm definitely using this one sometime. Stayed at a hotel in New York and the TV had only one program, commercials for medicine, and the style of the TV spots was outrageous, as if they were selling magic pills. Here is the conversation I had with a cashier in a Dunkin' Donuts in Ohio. Her. "Oh you you speak funny." Me. I have an accent. I'm French Canadian. Her. "What do you mean?" Me. "Well, English isn't my first language." Her. "So you're not deaf? Because you speak really slowly, and in a weird way." Me. "It's a French accent." Her. "Okay, I understand. Okay, it's a Canadian accent. Weird. I mean, they weren't wrong. It is a Canadian accent." First city I came to in US was to LA, and went to Malibu Beach with a friend. My first reaction was I was told there would be fat people. Everyone were fit as frick. I was ashamed to take off my shirt. Yeah, see, fat people don't go to the beach. As a fat person, I can confirm this. If we do, we spend all our time in at least shoulder depth water while we stare at the beautiful beach bodies we'll never get to touch. I was in LA 2002, went into a petrol station in Inglewood on my way to West Hollywood. There was an old Korean guy behind the counter and one middle-aged white woman shopping. 2 minutes after I walked in, a lowrider with 5 black guys rolled into the station. Now I'm black but I'm from London, but these guys looked gangster as heck and were all black. 4 of them walked into the shop while one was pumping petrol. The moment they walked in they started swearing at the old Korean guy, cussing him out. This went on for half a minute. Me and the old white lady looked at each and both thought this place was going to get robbed. The old Korean guy was standing behind the counter and had this calm look on his face the whole time, and as soon they were done swearing he just came out, said, "You black soul eating mother suckers need shut your big lips cause I don't understand one word of what you just said." Everything went quiet and I started to crouch down thinking this where I'm going to die. Just as I started to hide, all the black guys burst out laughing and were falling all over each other, and the old Korean man was laughing as well. It turns out this how they greet each other every time they come into the shop. Me, the old white lady had the exact same look of relief on our faces. It was like scene out of Rush Hour. First time visiting New York City. On our first night, my wife and I stayed at a hotel just through the tunnel in New Jersey. We're just leaving a diner to walk back to our hotel when a bakery van is T-boned right in front of us by a speeding sedan. The van is hit so hard that it flips over, spilling stuff everywhere. The sedan, half totaled, spins around and begins to speed off. My wife and I are sprinting towards the van. As the driver is still inside, I stop to try and get the plate number of the hit and runner as he speeds past us, and he nearly kills me in the process. The driver of the bakery van is stumbling injured down the sidewalk while his smoking vehicle lies on its side in the middle of the intersection. My wife is screaming, "Call 911" as we try to get him to sit down and rest. He's in shock, mumbling about how he's going to be late for work. State cops and an ambulance showed up pretty quickly. They took statements from us about the hit and run, and took my photo in the process. Canadian, how the cop asked, Staying in town here? Yeah, I replied, it's our first night. The cop smirks at me and goes, what do you think so far? I lived in the Midwest as a kid, but I am Australian. I had a woman who genuinely thought we took a bridge to get to America from Australia. I had a teacher who would not let me into the classroom in the morning unless I said a dingo stole my baby. I was in grade 2 and had no clue what it meant. This same teacher would make me recite the Pledge of Allegiance. My sister showed up on the first day of school to find the discipline corner was Australia, with a badly drawn map that didn't include Tasmania, because that was where the convicts go. And lastly, the men are people, children and adults, asking me if we rode kangaroos. That discipline corner should be enough to report the teacher, because as Aussies we hate foreigners reminding our convict history. Walking into a supermarket and seeing the endless cereal lanes and the amount you can choose from blew my mind. Also, when I was working in a camp over a summer, I was devastated to see that the people who ran the place would actually choose to use throwaway dishes, cups and cutleries instead of normal ones. I don't know if that's typical, but it sure hurt my eco-protecting side to see all the waste just one day would generate. Had a good time though. 15-year-old me took a trip to a Walmart near Cape Cod. Firstly, your Skittles are different. UK. Grape equals blackberry, apple equals lime, and grape candy is weird. Secondly, my father saying man all the fat people must be a myth, followed by a morbidly obese man on a scooter who also happened to be a Shriner. Yet his scooter had horrific anti-Arab text on it. Back in the good old days, Skittles used to have lime instead of apple in the US. Then 9/11 happened and nothing was the same. I went to the Daytona 500 in 2008. An obese lady sitting next to me ate a large turkey leg and proceeded to wash her hands with her beer afterwards because she didn't have the energy to go to the washroom. This is so American. I stood up and started saying the Pledge of Allegiance. Big fat guy at the Grand Canyon loudly informing his family that the geological information signs were plainly incorrect because they conflicted with scripture. Also, my wife had a miscarriage while we were there. The healthcare system kinda worked okay for us because we had travel insurance to cover the costs of all treatments, but I would sure hate to be poor in your country. When I went to BlizzCon and there were people with Jesus hates video game signs. Might not be the exact words on the signs, but the message is the same. You put a man on the moon almost 50 years ago, yet you haven't come up with a way to make toilet doors without gaps in them. Oh, we have, it's just cheaper not to. I once bought gum in Buffalo, NY, and I told the cashier I had exact change, and she looked at me square in the eye and said, "Sir, I honestly don't give a crap." Brit here. Rather than get the usual "do you know the Queen?" a guy in a bar asked me what the bridge was called that connected England to Scotland. I told him I didn't know. Hadrian's Bridge. Being greeted, "Sir, how are you doing?" by a young soldier in Austin Airport who just got back from service in Afghanistan. This would never happen in India, because anyone with a uniform here thinks they are a superior species and others are merely to be tolerated. The support was just pleasantly unbelievable. Pure gentlemanliness, that too towards a brown-skinned foreigner. On my first day in the USA, I saw someone who was at least as fat as anyone I had ever seen before in my life. On each subsequent day while I was in the USA, I saw someone at least as fat again. My family made it a game to spot the fattest person each day. The backwards writing on the roads. Down. Slow. It's like someone assumed your gaze is fixed as you drive along, so you see the slow first, then the down. But that's not how people read. That's more for traffic. If the car in front of you drives over the writing, the first thing that you'll see will be slow, which is more important than seeing down first. This may seem minor, but I've only been to Maine and I found it very odd that people would have opened Bibles in their windows, facing out. Do people randomly stop to read them? This wasn't just one or two homes. It was many. American here. I have no clue, but that is really weird. Had my first experience of the US in NYC. Disclaimer. I found it incredible. The people super friendly and a Rangers game blew my mind. A homeless woman doing the toilet on an underground train then getting angry at people for looking at her was probably my WTF highlight. Doing the toilet. I love it. Visiting different parts of the US can be kinda WTF. I'm originally from the Northeast, and visiting the Midwest we stopped in a Menards and that was a culture shock. If you want some lumber, a lawnmower, a dress shirt, a frozen pizza, a gallon of milk, a fishing pole, a toy for your niece, and a giant assorted bag of candy, Menards is your one-stop shop. At SeaWorld I got out of the way to let a person in a motorized scooter behind me see into the tank. They got up then and walked forward and took my place against the glass. I was really confused. I didn't understand that some non-paralyzed people choose to use motorized scooters. I have yet to see this in any other country. Edit to be clear guys, I'm not putting people down for using scooters. Just it surprised me since I had never encountered partially disabled people using them until I traveled to the States. When I see a motorized aid of any kind I assume the person is severely disabled, like they have a degenerative muscular condition. Because this has always been the case where I'm from. I thought someone was breaking cover and openly revealing that they had been faking paralysis in front of a crowd. I expected the crowd to react. It is extremely unusual for a non-paralyzed person to use a motorized wheelchair, let alone scooter, outside America. Edit 2. I've started a bad thing in the comments I didn't intend. My WTF came from not understanding what I was seeing at the time. The way you use motorized chairs is potentially confusing for people from countries where motorized chairs are used exclusively by paralyzed people. This was my lack of experience as an outsider and not a condemnation. I know better now. I didn't mean to add to a pre-existing debate between Americans about your use of scooters. I was once nursing a sore throat in New York and I was walking down this long stairway to get to the subway and I was clearing my throat. As soon as I got down, this elderish gentleman turned around and yelled, "If you have a problem with me, just freaking say it." I just stared at him like the awkward seal meme. It's definitely WTF America. I'm from England and studied at college in GA for a year. I was about 24 at the time, late starter, so I was more than accustomed to enjoying the occasional alcoholic beverage. Anyway, I make the short trip to a gas station in order to buy a 6-pack and they ask me for it. I willingly offer my British passport to the cashier with a smile and I'm told that they don't accept it. WTF. It's a BP gas station. British Petroleum. Seriously, pee me off. Was staying in a hotel in Boston. One of the workers there was fascinated by my accent and asked where I was from. I said Ireland, to which he replied, "Oh cool, so where is Ireland?" I never thought I'd have to give directions to Ireland, but it kinda boiled down to come out of the hotel, take a left and keep going for about 4,500 kms. At least 30 huge women marching into a Walmart in a single file line. Almost all of them with holstered handguns on their belts. All of them went straight to the McDonald's, never breaking formation, never saying a word except to the cashier. It was majestic, like a squadron of fully armed Zeppelin floating by during World War II. When we entered the US at Niagara border crossing, we had to fill out some ridiculous forms. It even asked if I took part in Nazi Germany's crimes. WTF dude. I was 14 years old back in 2008. Go to catch those compulsively honest time traveling Nazis. IHOP, 8 AM. A family of 4, sitting around a table meant for 6. The dad had to use 2 chairs, inhaling pancakes. And just the night before I was telling my American I don't know why Americans are considered fat. When I visited the LA area a few years back, Canadians, my buddy and I needed to get from Venice Beach to downtown so we can catch the Lakers game and check into our hostel. We decided to just take the city bus over. 2 separate times we drove by 3-4 guys face down with cops pointing guns at them. Seemed very America. The laws on alcohol always baffles me. You can get in a car at 16, but you can't get near a bar till you're 21. In France, you can't drink alcohol in a bar till 16 for beer and 18 for stronger alcohol, but no law against drinking alcohol if bought by adults. It's the adult responsibility. When we was in Utah, we sat in a restaurant and ordered some food, beers and whiskey, and we wanted to order a second round of beers, but the waiter told us, That we can't drink that much of alcohol in an hour, so we have to wait an hour. Seriously, WTF? That's not America, that's Utah. Come up to Wisconsin, we have no such inhibition. Do you intend to enter the United States to commit a crime? Ever since I read that back in the early 90s, I've wondered how many people tick yes. WTF indeed. On holiday when I was about 12 in Provincetown, Massachusetts, two insanely fat, I mean like sofa-sized, lesbians trundling down the middle of the road side by side on mobility scooters, whilst holding hands. I know they were lesbians because one of them started making quite aggressively sexual passes at my mum. Well, P-Town is the gayest place on the entire East Coast. Nowadays, that's kind of the whole point of the town. Awesome place to visit. Just do your research beforehand, since there are several themed weeks and events that cater to certain crowds and tastes. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.